Hello, guys. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Daily Teachings. Hopefully, everybody's staying safe there. Your accounts are safe. You're managing your risk well. So, a lot to discuss today, guys. A lot to discuss. We had a decent day in the community. We follow the plan, we follow the trend. We had tiny losers trying to go long in the market at the open, but then our system told us it's no long and we nailed the market. So market followed a sequence today. We'll discuss all that. We'll discuss, we'll look at the tariffs and what's going on. We'll take a quick glance at the market and we'll look at the wicks and all that. Before I do that, let's do a small introduction to anybody who's new to my Twitter, new to our Twitter accounts, new to my YouTube, or new to our community. All these recaps and all these teachings is anything, any ideas or any teachings that I share right here on YouTube, or any ideas I share on my Twitter, or mostly in our community. We trade a repeatable trading system in the stock market, the trading system called Ripster EMA Cloud system, which thousands of traders across the world use to trade this system. This system is a trend trading system. We do not go against the trend. We do not look for the dips. We do not look for the top in the market. We go with the trend. Wherever the market takes us, we go with that. Every morning, me and my team, we create a game plan. We create a game plan for the day, that how we're going to trade the market. So this morning, as you know, the everything was selling off. So we made a plan in the pre-market how we are going to handle the market today. So it includes the news plays, the market index stocks, earning plays, upgrades, downgrades. Today it was all about the marketplace because market was moving in tandem. So we didn't really need to focus too much, but we did focus on restoration hardware earnings. We'll talk about that as well today. Anything that triggers from our game plan, we follow the game plan. We have initial bias, we make an initial bias, and then we change our bias according to our system. So we'll go through these plays. I'll show you my timestamp guidance, and we'll go through how we trade it in the community. We also share the levels for all the ETFs, indices, so that you can trade these with Ripster EMA Clouds. We provide this to our community members. We provide all the levels that you can pause the screen and see, and so that the traders can trade the market using the information we provide in the pre-market. We also trade futures in the community. We provide future levels. We provide all the future levels, so the traders who trades futures, they can trade the futures in the community. So we also have something called day 2, day 3 repeatable setups. This is a strategy that I invented. We provide these setups as well in the pre-market, so the traders can trade these setups. And TJX and Walmart were a few of the day 2 setups that we will discuss today in this recap. We also trade low floats. We have a low float game plan. We also have IPOs. We track all those. In our community, we have thousands of traders on our trading floor who share their trading ideas and guidance all day long. We have multiple stock scanners, option scanners. We have 4 or 5 option scanners. We have Bookmap. We have breaking news alerts. We have audio squawks, audio scan stock alerts. So we have over tools which are worth $500, $600 a month, which are freely available to the members in the community at no cost. I'm usually on the voice first few hours of the market open, and I'm usually guiding the traders through the market. Any trades I'm taking, even if I'm not taking any trades, I guide the traders through our game plan, the stock, the market comments, and making sure the traders are making right decisions, helping them trading the volatile market, helping them psychologically, keeping them in the right mindset so that nobody is losing. If they lose, not too much under my guidance, and trying to win and make the right decisions. So that being said, let's start the introduction. Let's start the recap for the day. All right, so let's look at the market. Before we talk about the tariffs, what happened today was SPY broke a big bear flag on the weekly chart today, right? So you always have to pay attention to what the market doing. You can't just keep buying that bottom, the dips, just because you think it's too low. Of course, you have to understand everything. You have to have your 3 or 4 pillars when you're trading or investing in the stock market. You need to look at the technicals. Then you need to look at macro, overall macro, geopolitical events. Then, of course, the stock fundamentals, right? So all those pillars combine for you to make a right analysis in the stock market. You just can't blindly look at the fundamentals or blindly look at technicals as well. The fundamentals and will tell you what to buy, but the macro environment, the technicals tell you when to buy, when to not buy, and when to manage your risk, when to stop out of your long positions, or when to invest. if market works in cycles, guys, market goes up, market goes down, that's perfectly fine. But if you buy any investment at the top of the market cycle, like what we were in last 2-3 months, then of course your long-term investments will be down significantly, right? Because you did a mistake buying things at top of the market cycle. That's what you do not do it. You buy in the corrections, right? So like if you're trying to buy now scaling in, that's fine, but you need to know your levels, you need to know your risk management, you need to have a repeatable system. So what's happening right now? So what's happening with the tariffs, right? So we all know that Trump announced this reciprocal tariffs, and the market just flushed. Initially, yesterday, Trump first talked about 10% tariffs, and when he said that, initially what we saw yesterday was that the market yesterday when he announced the 10% tariff, we bounced a bit, right? We had a bounce, initial pump on that, market pushed up, but when he brought out his the big chart, right? Let's see if I can show you guys that what happened there yesterday. Let's see here. So when he brought out his chart, that then people realized, no, it's not just a 10% tariff, which was all right. It was more than that. And that's when the market panicked and everybody started selling. So the point here, guys, is, we need to have our judgment, our due diligence has to be non-political, not be biased based upon our political affiliations. A lot of the traders, and you see on X, they even if they know something is not right, they will still agree with it because they have their political bias. So we don't talk politicals. We don't talk political. We stick with the system. Our job is to make money in the market and preserve what we have. That is our job. Our job is not to be blind sheep, a brainwashed sheep. Our job is to manage our finances for ourselves, for our family, make sure we are not losing our savings and we are having a good account growth in the market. So that's the key. So anyways, when the tariffs announced, even they're not right. They're basically not right for the economy. Long term, whatever might be good, you can argue, but our job as a traders is to analyze and make a decision. So what I analyzed, or what I told my community or my followers, that be safe. If you have long positions, cut them and trade short. Because if you look at that, if you really want to review that, what's happening right now, the stock market is run by the companies. Companies make profit, they grow their revenue, they grow their profit, and the company stock goes up, and that's how we make money in the stock market when the companies do much better. Now, when you put tariffs and huge tariffs across the world, not only in one country, right? We put huge tariffs across the world. So what happens, right? It's even a 10-year-old kid could understand that. I tried to explain it yesterday. Take example of China, right? 34% tariffs is actually 50%. There's a lot of other things there as well. So anybody who is manufacturing, doing their manufacturing, bringing in their parts from all across the world, they are going to have to pay more tariffs. So what does that mean? The company has to shell out more money out of their pockets. So they have smaller profits, right? So their earnings growth forecast will be weakened. The growth will be weakened. So, so that the companies will say they will make less money next quarter. And that's why there's no growth. There's no growth means the stock price shouldn't be where it is, and the investors sell, right? And of course, there's some other things. I mean, I'm not a macro expert, but of course, the companies pass these costs to the consumers. So consumers, it brings more inflation, and then companies even fire people. That brings more unemployment. That reduces the purchasing power, and it's a big cycle. And then Fed has to come in, try to save the economy. So I'm not going to go in detail about that. They're much better, smarter people who can talk much better about the economics, inflation, the rates, all that. Right, but our point is to figure out why the stocks are selling off, how to manage our risk. Right now, the way the tariffs are, if the tariffs do not go away, it impacts the company profits. See, long term, the stock market always goes up. Like I said, we are in a cycle. But what's happening right now? Right now, we need to manage our risk. Right now, we need to watch and manage our risk. Even if we are buying, we can't go crazy buying as an investor, sizing in without our proper due diligence, our risk analysis. We'll talk about the charts in a minute here. But the point is, even when we go through a recap today, you will see the stocks like, the computer stocks, Micron, Dell, HP computers. They may bring their parts from all across the world, and they are going to pay a lot of money on these tariffs to make those computers, even here in America. And that's why they sold off. It's pretty simple, right? And of course, there is fear, there's margin calls, all that, right? So we are in that pretty bad environment right now. So if somebody tells you, oh, it's a face ripper rally coming in, oh, we are going to bounce, right? Yes, eventually we will recover, but when and how we will recover depends upon the government policies upon these tariffs, right? Even Trump has said there's going to be pain, short-term pain, 1 month pain, 2 month pain, 1 week pain, 5 days pain. We do not really know. But just going blindly buying is not, it's not the environment, right? So their technicals, the systems, they are there in place, right? Why the stock? If you were so correct, why would the stocks be selling off, right? Why is so people have lost so much money in last few weeks because we are used to this bull market last 1 year, everything going up, because there was never really, we had inflation scare, we had interest rate high, so those things could still be countered by what the Fed is doing, and we could recover. So my market was doing pretty good, but all those things are not the point right now. The point right now is market is scared. Market is scared of recession. Market is scared of how long these tariffs will stay around. At the end of the day, this will impact the stock companies here in USA, their profits, their margins, their revenues, right? So at end, we are not a perma bears, we are not perma bulls. We trade the trend, and when the trend changes, you don't really have to find the bottom, right? You will have enough time to buy your investments. If you do a dollar cost average, you need to have a plan. You just can't be going down and trying to dip buying everything, right? That's why I try to in all my videos if you watch my last few weeks recaps, how much I stressed how to avoid the intraday volatility. So it's important to avoid that intraday volatility and not being a blind bull and trying to long against the system. So that's what we never do it. So let's see what market was doing today and how did we manage all this. Before we do that, let's look here at the market SPY QQQ chart, what SPY was doing today. So if you see that coming into today, SPY was bear flagging, right? So SPY was bear flagging. SPY was bear flagging today, and VIX was strong, gapping up, and same thing was QQQ was it was weak. It was under breaking a key support, and it's also testing a big support for tomorrow. So let's see what was our plan on the market, and see we'll go from there. So plan on the market this morning. VIX, we were using our VIX strategy, right? VIX 2730, 28 key levels today. If VIX holds 27, cautious of the longs that open. Push to 28 will be a market short. For longs, VIX needs to break 2650, 25. And VIX never really did it, right? So we watched the 512 curls on MAX 7 for any long bias. Amateur move, 10 AM concept. So we had this plan. We used everything, all that plan. Let's see how we used it today. As you see, this was the market gapping down. Initially, my market showed us a 512 call. You see this? So this was the 512 call, and we longed it because it's an amateur move, like I said in the pre-market plan, amateur move. So market pushed on the amateur move, rejected after amateur move from 3450 clouds, and this is where the market turned short when it broke the 512 clouds. At the same time, if you look what was happening today in the morning was when VIX started to bounce from the 26 level, 27 all the way to 29, and that's why we were short. So let's see here. So initially we were long, you see here, and once it broke right here, I told everybody exit your longs, and then we short it. 10 AM shorts, both are 10 AM shorts with 3450 as risk. What is 3450? This is your risk, and you short it. You buy the puts, take it down all the way to 539. Beautiful trade, 100% on the puts. You could easily make double your money on the options, and of course you can trade leverage ETFs. We'll discuss that. Same for QQQ. Once we broke here, 10 AM, the concepts, amateur move, trend move, 10 AM. Our repeatable concepts that we use every day in the stock market to trade. And that's how the thousands of traders in the community and my followers, they follow the system. That's why I keep teaching day in, day out. So stay safe. Even if you are not short, at least hedge your positions or, make money shorting the market if you're an active trader or if you're an, active investor. So that was the market, and you see that then market came down, we exit our shorts here, and then came the midday fades. 3450 push, midday fade. 3450 push, midday fade. So that was the cycle of the market today. To summarize that cycle, let's look here at what I tweeted as well. Let's see here what I talked about. Let's see here. So as so the market was morning flush, 512 cloud curls, and this morning flush was at 10 a.m. And then test 3450, then reject 3450 and 512 fades. So that was the concept all day. And I warned the traders, if you see here, like when I mentioned that, that's it's a puny bounce. This is where even if you were trying to long anything, get out and short it. Even if you're not shorting it, just make sure you're not losing money going long. This is a concept of the 512 fails. This is exactly the repeatable concept that happens every time. It happened again today. The trend line break, 512 break, you reshorted. Repeatable concept, right? You need to learn to short in this market. If you want to make money in the Trump market, you need to be able to shorting the market. And you can see here, first we were curling, that's fine. And then once we started to bounce, I tweeted about it, that it's failing, bearish again. So you make money on the downside. That's why how the traders in the community are doing that. So that was the SPY QQQ all day fade. And, you can see the timestamp guidance here. You can see my Twitter tweets and a lot of things I guide on the voice. Literally traders killed it. So many traders in the community, they were on top of it. SPY, Sharmila, for many other traders, Tape, everybody, we follow the system. That's why it's so much high success rate in the community for the traders. That's why a lot of our traders were just done in the trader. Shan was done early, a lot of other traders were done. Vamshi was done with the trades we had in the community. I mean, because we trade this system, just like I'm showing you, and we do it live. It's no hindsight, no BS. So that was how you trade the market today. And let's look at the individual names. Let's look at the semiconductors next. So let's look at these semiconductors here. So let's look at, what was the plan on the semiconductors? When market is heavy, semiconductors are a big part of the NASDAQ. So we had a plan. If semi is heavy, long SOXS. These are the leverage ETFs you can long, or you can short SOXL, which, leverage ETF of the semiconductors long. And if you see that SOXL faded all day, and you see that SOXS, ran all day. Even if you're not shorting it, let's say you're invested in NVIDIA, AMD, AVGO, all those semiconductors, you can hedge. Let's say you're buying NVIDIA or those things today. You can buy at the same time. You can buy leverage ETF long, right? Look at this, risking 50 cents, it gave you $3. You risk 500, you make $3,000, long on SOXS because it is, the semi inverse of semiconductors. So you don't need to buy. You don't always need to buy and be a long trader. You need to learn to be a short trader in this market. And that's hopefully a lot of you are doing it like I have been teaching you guys in every video, every short, every tweet, every day. So that was another winner for us in the community, SOXL semiconductors, right? You need to know what it's consisted of, Taiwan Semi, AVGO, all these stocks make the semiconductors. You don't really need to short them. You can short these, buy puts, short shares, or go long the inverse ETFs and make money on SOXL and SOXS. So let's go to the next one. So let's look at the banks now, right? So the banks are a big part of the market, like I cover in a lot of my webinars, like stock market analysis webinar that I did free on the Twitter, and it's also part of my community. I covered how to analyze the market. So banks are a big part of the market. Let's look at them, and we made money on them. How did we make money? Let's look at all of them. Let's look at Citibank. Let's look at Bank of America, and then let's look at JP Morgan. Then also we are going to look at the Goldman's list, Goldman Sachs. You can check Morgan Stanley as well, but these were similar. You should see the same thing. Short, curl, short again, short, curl, short again. Our system tells us when to exit. We exited here, we longed, and it pushed higher. We exited, shorts, longed, and short again. So let's see here, right? What was I telling? I told everybody Bank of America, JPM, short from the game plan. What was the game plan? The game plan that I prepared live in the pre-market that I gave everyone was, right, watch all banks, GS, JP Morgan, bearish bias, right? Bank of America, all banks weak, follow the sector, bearish bias, all banks weak, bearish bias to short the pops on Citigroup. What did Citigroup do? Faded right off the gate, gave the guidance to short. We shorted all the way 66 to 63, $3 profit. We shorted the Bank of America. 38 to 37, 30, 50. Same thing for Goldman Sachs, and continuous guidance to short them. And we exited the shorts, when they were pushing over that. JPM, we actually longed JPM right here from. I can make it bigger so you can see the move. So JPM long to 30s, and then you take your profits at 34.50s and you de-short them, right? And then you see this break exit. That's when I told everybody to exit it, and you can short it, try to reclaim, but it was fading all day. So Bank of America, another beautiful winner for the traders in the community. The options really moved nicely on them. If you trade options, you can short the shares. You can use anything, and that to make money on those. Let's look at 232.50 puts. You see that they ran from $3 to 100%, and then again they ran from the $3 to that level. So there's always opportunities in the market, and we were ready. We knew the banks are weak. That's why I told everyone in the community to short the banks, and that's how you make money in the stock market. Even when the market is selling off, even if you're an investor, you can still use these opportunities to make money in the market. That's how the traders in our community, or my followers, or my students that I've been helping free for years, are staying safe in the market, keeping losers small, and taking these opportunities to make money in the market. All right, so next one we're going to look at Micron and DELL. So Micron and DELL, the thing with Micron and DELL was, right, all these stuff, again, we go back to the tariffs, right? Every company, any company that makes computers and the related stuff, they bring the stuff from all across the world, the peripherals, the small parts like Dell, HP computers, the hard drive companies, the Logitech, the keyboards, the mouse. They bring so many parts from across the world. So when you increase the tariff all across the world, imagine their profits are going to be impacted, because now they have to pay out more money for their parts. So that's why they were weak. So you need to understand the macro environment, and then you understand that. And that's why Micron, told the traders in the community to short it. I told the traders to short Dell. There was many other shorts. You could short HPE. Look at that fade 15. The stocks were trading 100% ATR is always your target. Other stocks, Logitech, everything was fading today. Logitech faded from 74 all the way to 71, because these are impacted. It's not about, right now it's the fear in the market. It's a fear in the market, and these names are impacted by those, Micron, Dell. So those are good names to short, and that's, good profitable trades for the community. You see Jaswinder was on top of Micron all day, guiding the traders through that Micron short. You see that how Jaswinder made really nice $5 profit, and same was for Dell. All day was heavy. Shankar pointed it out right at the open, and they were just beautiful shorts. So this is how you take the find opportunities, and amazing traders in the community, really smart traders finding these opportunities to make money in the community every day. All right, so now let's look at one of our home run trades today, Restoration Hardware. Let's go back to first look at Restoration Hardware daily chart. So Restoration Hardware, had an earnings yesterday, but remember, when something is so Restoration Hardware, reported the earnings, and remember, in this market, if your earnings are bad, you are going to get destroyed. Restoration Hardware misses on revenue, misses on EPS. The plan was extended to downside, bearish bias, but need to watch the open for a big pop to short, and cautious of the 512 calls. So doesn't mean it has sold off down 40%. We still will find opportunities based upon our system, because it broke this big 200 psychological support. Nothing is too low. So as soon as the market opened and I saw the weakness on Restoration Hardware, I told everyone to short it. I told the community to short Restoration Hardware right at the open. Cover first target was 145, next target was 140. You see that we met our 140 target by in 1 hour. We met that target, right? And after that, the puts went from, like, if you trade the puts, it didn't really have the strikes more than 145. Those went from like one. Even if you bought $2, they're 500% gain. They really went 700-800%. So you can see all the timestamp guidance. We are not an alert service, but still we are one of the largest trading community, because everyone in my community wants to learn, want to be a self-dependent trader, doesn't want to be spoon-fed. So they take the guidance. They're already in these trades, and you see insane profit the community on the restoration hardware. So that was RH, home run trade in the community. All right, so let's look at next one. Next one was Apple. Apple, the reason the Apple was in the morning, why we shorted the market, because Apple was not showing any strength, right? So I gave the Apple short right at the open, and we shorted it, and it did flush from like 204 to 202s. It started to go around. We exit our shorts when it started to push over the clouds, but then Apple gave another short right here. The same setup. I just showed you the rejections of 3450. I just showed you that the setup again. It's a repeatable setups. It's nothing random. It's a repeatable setup that I show you right here. So that's what Apple really did essentially. So that was the end of the day short on Apple, and that's what I've said. Apple leading the fails, cut under 512s, market staying bearish. We did long it a little bit on this C minus long, but the target was met. So from 204.5s to 206s, you exit it. Even if you were break even, that's fine, but you short it again, take it down all the way back. I gave the stops at 204 when we were trading at low of the day, around 230s. And even from that, we faded to 201. My target was 200, but eventually we did hit 201s there. So, we'll see how it does tomorrow. 200 is a big level for Apple. So once it pulled, we were out of all the shorts. So that was Apple trade today, guys. You can see the timestamp guidance. And if you want to see the pre-market planning, we can go there. Room to 200 if market heavy, only long if market bounces, or if 206 holds, bearish to neutral bias. So you see that exactly, it failed 206, and you knew it's going to be a short, and then it gave you other opportunity end of the day. So Meta was another one, which was a short at the open. It was short at the open. Meta was short at the open. It right away was a short, kind of bounced, but held our stops, and it hit 534s from that 544s. That was enough profit. And then it did give us a curl here. We traded a curl as well on Meta. You can see this was a curl versus 538. You put stops right here. You trade the curls, hit our target. Again, same thing again, right? Same thing. This setup, Ripster Cloud setup. And you again, shorted by the puts, or you shorted, that was another $10, $12 per share profit right from here. That's the 512 breakdown short on Meta. That's how we're making money in the community. All right, so next one we're going to look at Amazon. So let's see what Amazon was doing. So Amazon gave a short right here when it broke this bear flag. So Amazon, I told everybody 512 shorts right here. You can see the timestamp, 1019, and it faded from 181 to 176. Beautiful trade. You could call it, but again, same thing. Everything touched 3450, and then it gave you a 512 short from there. Amazon short, curl, short. Beautiful trade. Now Netflix was different today. Netflix gave a 900 long this morning. Let's see here. Not impacted that much by tariff, but nothing is immune to the market. Netflix down with the market, trade versus 900, long over it, short under it, and right away from 900, it gave you $30 push long. And then even later in the day, it gave you another call long. So Netflix was amazing. Trader really nailed it in the community as well, Netflix. And these are the morning 9:30 to 10 a.m. trades, guys. So that's why the traders, Noni was long, Kush was long, Slaughter took 40% there. He took 40% profit. So you see that how traders are finding the opportunities with the system. We were not short on the Netflix at the open. It was not a short, it was a long because our system told us, and even gave another long from MTF to MTF later in the day. Let's look at a loser today. We long Tesla. It was not really loser, but but it was an amateur candle, right? So we long Tesla, but you see that it was a curl long, and our target was 278. 275 was first target here, and when we gave the long, it did hit 276. You see 932. I told that traders, but then it failed. We stopped out right under here, and then you could short it, but it was not as weak as other names. But so we ignored it, but you could see that how Tesla was. It did give you a curl, but Tesla held pretty well compared to the rest of the market. So next one we're going to take a look at is LULU. So LULU was long out of the gate. It was long out of the gate. It did the same thing as it did the same thing as Netflix. It pulled back. Risk was 244. So then you get out, but you see this 244. It never really broke. I gave the stop at 933s, and you see that it reclaimed, gave you another 512 long, 3450 long. That was a decent trade. If you added here, you have to take a loss, and then you take it long right there. All right, so let's look at some of our day 2 setups. TJX was an opening long, was a nice long, 512 long as well. And I will show you, we had it on the plan. Similarly, Walmart was also a decent long at the open. Let's look at the game plan here. If you go to the day 2 plan, Walmart TJX, top 2 longs, daily, hourly, MTF. And so those were our day 2 longs, right? So decent push. And when it tried to curl this 512s, then it pushed higher. There were actually many other setups. CVNA was another setup. Whenever the market tanks, these high flyers are the ones which flush most. UPST was all day fade. CVNA was all day fade. Special shout out to our traders in the community, Drew Maheen, and CP3. A great guidance there by these traders. Maheen called it a short, and Drew also gave it a short. So, that's the beauty of our community. Everybody's sharing their ideas on the short, and you see that CVNA broke MTF clouds, and then it faded. So there are some other longs in the community, these were the IPOs and NMAX. These are just all scam IPOs, but they give you opportunities to long. If you go back here on a day 2 plan, we had a plan for NMAX, where WTF. You see the 512 curls, you long it. This was mostly my voice mention, and and then this was a 512 3450. You risk like $4 or $5 and it gave you like $20. And same thing was for WTF, and that also was a nice day to set up. So anyways, guys, a lot of opportunities. Be safe out there. The time to long will come. If you want to join the community, feel free to join the community. Happy to help everyone. Take care. Bye bye.